Hello, fellow gamers! Welcome to the Video Gamers Podcast. We are three dads who love gaming, and we release new episodes on Mondays and Thursdays. Today is a Hijack a Host episode. We are going to be deep diving Toontown Rewritten. Please remember to rate our show 5 stars and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. I am your host, Paul, and joining me, the tightwad cog himself, calling in from a Cellbot factory, it's Josh.
Hi, everybody. I have no idea what's going on today.
You got to do the whole episode as Mickey Mouse. That's the deal.
What are you talking about, Paul? This is my normal voice.
Yeah, with Toontown. Excellent. All right. And then joining Josh and me, he is hosting his own party, paid for with jelly beans, of course. You might see him floating up in the sky after being shot out of a cannon. It's Ryan.
Oh, that's why I'm floating. I thought there was something in those jelly beans.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, before we jump into our deep dive here, Josh, I think you're going to read a review someone left the show.
I am going to read a review because we absolutely love reviews from the listeners. It's a good way to let us know how we're doing, what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, but it really is awesome just to see, people's responses to what we do and what we kind of just throw out there into the universe. So it also really does help the show in, rankings and stuff like that as well. So if you haven't left us a review yet, please take a few seconds to leave a 5-star review if you're on Spotify. If you are on Apple Podcasts, you can actually write a review. And there's a good chance we're going to read it on the show, like this one that comes in from Hell's Dog 22, and it's titled Perfect for a Third Shift Gamer Dad. And it says, I just found the pod recently due to Josh being on the Fantasy Footballers pod that I also follow. It's been awesome to listen to, especially during long night shifts. I can only play games on the late weekend nights, so I've had no real outlet to talk or listen about video games with anyone until I found this pod. So I just wanted to give a quick thank you to you guys. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, heck yeah.
Well, thank you, Hell's Dog.
Yeah, thank you, man.
We will keep you company at work.
You.
Yeah.
Uno reverse guard. Yeah, and when you have such limited time for gaming, we're going to be able to help you figure out what's worth spending your time on and what to stay away from. So this is win-win all around.
I didn't tell you guys this, but I actually have been working on a secret project where I am just narrating my playthrough on a game.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, so it's like Twitch, but without any of the visual stuff. Kind of like a podcast too, but it's just going to be me basically going like, oh, yeah, take that. No, that's cheating. No, okay, the boss is going down. This game sucks. And that's basically it.
That sounds like just the ramblings of a lunatic, if you ask me.
I think there's a market for that, guys. Right?
All right, we'll see.
I guess we'll find out.
We'll put it on Patreon behind the paywall. See,
oh, no. I'm sorry.
See who's willing.
Pay us to not have to listen to that.
There you go. All right. And then, Ryan, why don't you tell the people why we're covering Toontown Rewritten today?
Oh, we are here for this especially silly day from your boy, Alex. He did this great little thing we have here called the Hijack a Host. So what we got is you can come in. You ever wanted to kind of make your friend or somebody that you know play a game that they may have not tested out before, they may have not had a chance to dive into, but you really think they should play it for pleasure or pain, either one. But you can do that with us. So we got this cool tier on our legendary support on Patreon, where you can hijack the host, pick a game, and we have to play it. We'll do a pre-dive episode covering what the game is, and then we will do a deep dive and cover everything that you picked.
Yeah, and the man of the hour in this case is Alex. And so we want to say thank you once again to Alex for going legendary. We did release that pre-dive just a couple weeks back, so you can always go back and listen to that episode if you want. And if anyone wants to sign up for Patreon, we do rely on listener support. You can do it at multiplayersquad.com. You'll unlock all kinds of perks like bonus episodes. All right, so I thought it would be fun just to kind of summarize a little bit about what we talked about on the pre-dive, especially for any listeners who didn't hear that, or maybe it's been a couple weeks since they last did. So basically, The original iteration of Toontown Online released all the way back in 2003, which, if you remember, makes this by far the oldest game that we've ever covered. It is 7 years older than Halo Reach, which is currently our oldest deep dive game. Shockingly, this game is also an MMO for anyone who doesn't know that. It actually released before World of Warcraft and EverQuest 2, making it one of the earliest MMOs. A lot of gamers say this is the first game that they ever played online. And the original Toontown Online game died quite some time ago, but a lot of programmers were able to recreate the game and release their own versions. Toontown Rewritten is the most popular one. It actually released less than a week after the original game went down. So that gives you a little bit of background. And here is the description of the game on Wikipedia for the original Toontown. Toontown Online was a 2003 MMORPG based on a cartoon animal world developed by Disney's Virtual Reality Studio and Shell Games, published by the Walt Disney Company. Players played as anthropomorphized animals known as Toons to explore a cartoon world, complete quests called Toon Tasks, and engage in combat against the Cogs, robot businessmen who served as the game's antagonists. Players used weapons known as gags, typically slapstick comedy items such as a thrown cream pie, in combat. All right, so this is a little different than most of the other games we've covered. I mean, we have covered some games that are based on cartoons like SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom, and some things like that, but this one is just a lot older. Ryan, you were the one selected to play the game. You knew that immediately. On the pre-dive, as soon as we revealed it was Toontown Rewritten, you said that's going to be for me. You have put in a fair amount of time in this game, right?
Yeah, I think I got definitely in the teens on the hours, probably 14, 15 hours or so on this, which, in old school MMOs, which this plays like, is, barely scratching the surface a lot of time. But I definitely got my time in, and I was able to do quite a bit.
Yeah. And I hopped in as well. I played a little bit because you can play this for free. We also got to play a little bit together, Ryan, just the other day. Josh, I couldn't help but notice you were never present for any of these playthroughs. Why didn't you come play with us?
Well, you see, guys, there was a little game called Lies of P that some listeners convinced me to give a shot. And then right after that came a Shadow of the Erdtree. And then in between there sometime, I got back into Rocket League with our buddy Andy. I also got sucked back into Overwatch 2 with my daughter. It's just a busy life, man. And then, when you see Toontown calling at you like a siren's call off in the distance, and it's singing to you, but then you see these other more modern games that are really more up your alley. It was
more attractive sirens calling from the other direction.
AKA Josh was like, I got to make myself busy.
I was getting my Souls likes on. Ryan,
sure,
yeah.
And of course now the First Descendant is out, so
Paul knows. See, look at that. I mean, just
not that
really
we can even
guys.
Get on. Servers are down again.
That's all right, Josh. Ryan. Josh always gives us a hard time when we don't play with him, but here he left us.
Why weren't you guys playing Torchlight 2 with me? That's a multiplayer game.
I played a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah, I think I did too.
No.
Only a little. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead, and I just want to address the elephant in the room right off the bat. All right. When we did this pre-dive, Josh and I had never even heard of this game. I think we were just too old for it, to where it was nowhere in our circles. I was not even aware that it ever existed. Ryan, you were only vaguely aware from your younger siblings. And when this was announced as a deep dive, I was kind of shocked at the amount of people that came out of the woodwork on Discord to come say how much they loved Toontown. I mean, were you guys kind of surprised at that reaction?
Oh, yeah. We all made comments about it because we kept seeing people on our Discord. And also, if you haven't joined the Discord, get on over there. Awesome community. Everybody super nice and friendly and all just talking about games. But anyways, yeah, there was just nonstop talk. And I even people were messaging me, "Oh man, this is awesome! You're playing this." I was on till 2 a.m. Phelps hit me up, longtime listener. You had me on here till 2 a.m. last night and sending me screenshots of all their gags and stuff. So definitely sparked some nostalgia gameplay for a lot of people.
Yeah, this caught me completely off guard, man. Like, Paul hit the nail on the head. I had never heard of this game. Like, usually there's somebody be like, "Hey, have you guys ever played this?" And I'm like, "I've heard the name before. I really don't know what the game is about, but at least I've heard of it." This game, I was like, "What? What Toontown? What? Like an MMO?" Like, my mind was blown, man. So, people on Discord were very excited about it, and then on social media, which is crazy as well. Like, I always post our episodes, just new episode out with some graphics and stuff like that. And I did a screenshot of Toontown without anything that mentioned Toontown. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, Toontown, man, that's my childhood. Like, oh, I love this game so much." And I was just like, there apparently is like a cult of people out there.
Yeah. A pretty good sized cult too. I mean, the fact that this game is technically 20 years old and there are still people playing. Like I told you guys on the pre-dive, I signed up, I hopped in, and immediately I saw like 8 people right off the bat. Yeah. And people were fishing. I started running around fighting and people were joining me in combat. I was shocked. So this game came out when I was in college and I was working full time. So I think it is fair to say, Josh and I were a bit older than you, Ryan. We were certainly not the target audience. And Ryan, you're not that much younger than us. I think it's fair to say you were a little bit older than this target audience as well. But it's clear that Alex is not alone. There are so many people who have such fond memories. But then for us being older and jumping into a game that is just so old, right away I was like, oh man, I don't want this to be where we all jump in and we don't have the nostalgia and the fond memories. And we're just going to come in and like crush this super old game that so many people love. That was my worry. Like, did you guys have a similar feeling? Like, Josh, you famously say EverQuest is your favorite game of all time. You tried jumping back in not long ago, and you literally said it is unplayable.
It's so bad.
And that's with nostalgia.
Yeah, with the nostalgia. So this is almost like, Josh, if you hijacked a host and picked EverQuest, and we jump in for the first time, like, were you guys kind of nervous in playing this one? Because we do always want to be honest, but we also don't just want to, like, stomp on ants with clown shoes.
Before Ryan gives his answer to that, because he has more firsthand experience with this, I will say if I asked one of you guys to play EverQuest, I would fully understand that it was magic at the time for me, but you guys would probably respond to, this game is really old, it's really dated, it doesn't have any modern quality of life issues and that sort of thing. We have literally covered multiple games with this question in mind. Ryan, when he picked Metal Gear Solid 5 for me, he was like, I want to see if it's nostalgia. Dwaff, when he picked SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, literally said, I want a nostalgia check. I want to see, is this my like rosy glasses or does this game hold up? And so, there definitely is that nostalgia factor. And that doesn't always transfer to somebody, and that's okay, right? Because if you loved a game way back in the day, like EverQuest for me, I think it's okay for people to say, I get if people wouldn't like it now, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like gaming has come a long way. Quality of life has come a long way. People don't want that MMO hard, old school grind like you had with EverQuest, and even World of Warcraft to a degree, because Vanilla WoW it was known as being hard. The problem is that when you oversimplify it, like current day WoW, where you can just instantly level up to whatever the max level is now, it takes away some of that, what made that game great initially. So there is a chance that Ryan will say, I hated this game. But if it's not for Ryan, that doesn't take away people's memories of it either.
Doesn't mean it's a bad game.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like anyone could say whatever they wanted about, EverQuest, but you have your memories, you have your experiences. So that's locked up for you and how you feel about the game. So I'm sure, everybody I talked to that had played this in their youth, I didn't talk to a single person that said a bad thing about it. Every single one of them loved it and raved about it. Said that, like you said, that's my childhood. So definitely a huge nostalgia thing. It is 20-something years old. It was made for the younger audience. So yeah, there's definitely a lot we're going to get into. I'm excited to cover it all.
There's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was so novel about this game is that it was specifically designed for a younger audience. They even wrote in the reviews that we read in the pre-dive, this was an attempt to stay away from like the older creeps who would be toxic and negative. And so Toontown did a lot of things to help preserve the atmosphere for a younger audience. For example, just so our listeners kind of understand what we mean by that, you do not get to type in your own name. They didn't want to give you a chance to put in something more mature or something that was like profane. And so they have a preset list of titles, first names, and last names. You can scroll down the list, select what you want, and that makes up your username. You also do not have open chat. They had like a quick chat menu where you can...
Josh, stop
I
coughing, dude.
I gotta address this.
You're not muting.
Josh is just hacking away in the back.
I just keep writing Josh cough on my note sheet.
Guys. I realize that my mute doesn't work if I have the wrong microphone selected in Windows.
Yeah.
He just kept coughing and then he's just sitting there like normal. And I'm like, what's he doing?
Oops.
I was going to totally ignore it, except that it just kept going. And then Ryan started smiling and I could see he was writing down
I wondered why you guys were laughing, man. I'm just sitting over here just coughing away, thinking I'm muted. Whoops. All right. Well, now I got to be real quiet.
Too funny. Yeah. The mute button on the correct mic is your friend. So they also had this whole like speed chat system where you can click on the top and then there are pre-selected messages you can click. For anyone who's played Rocket League, you know exactly what we're talking about. Short sentences that you can click on and then communicate with other people. Ryan, give us like a couple examples. What are some of these quick chats you can throw out in game?
So it was kind of neat. At first, it took a minute to get the hang of how to use that whole system because, trying to talk to people and communicate. But they have a little tab at the top where you can click, and then they have different categories. So there's simple things like "let's go" or "this way" that you could say to people when you're running around, especially if you're in a party. Or there's like a little bit more complex sentences like "where should we go?" or "let's find other tunes." But it was cool because the categories kept going. So you even had like things like taunts. So there was one that was funny that was like, "I'm so scared," and it said it that way too. And then that's gonna leave a mark. So there was tons of there was other ones that were I forgot the category it was under, but it was you could say like "you stink." It was
you
like
stink is the best one.
The biggest insulting one you could do was like, "You stink," and "please go away." It wasn't just "go away," it was like "please go away" or something like that. But yeah, it was really neat. And then there was even ones about strategy. So you could kind of try to figure out when you're battling the cogs, how to take them down or what gags to use and stuff. So yeah, the little quick chat system was pretty neat.
Yeah, I appreciate stuff like that. Like I remember when my son James first got into online gaming and he was hopping into WoW. Like we told him, okay, you just have to turn off chat. And I'm talking back when he was like 5 years old because we didn't want him like reading that stuff. And obviously being so young, you never know who's out there and who might be trying to talk to your kids. And so the fact that this game actually had all that built in, I think would have been really nice, especially for parents knowing that you can just kind of let your kid play. Now, as far as names go, I logged in this afternoon just out of curiosity to go look and see names of some people that were online. So I got 5 of them for you. So I logged in and I saw Sergeant Domino Dino Flip. I saw Jester Super Screech, Miss Looney Poodleton, Nutmeg Lemon Goober, and Alan. Alan.
Just Alan?
Yeah, one guy just no title, no last name, went total straight-laced and just named himself Alan. I named my tune Dr. Corky Funny Stink, which for whatever reason made me laugh. Ryan, what ended up being your name in this game?
My name ended up being Captain Comet McZilla, which I like the McZilla part. I was like, you just call me McZilla.
McZilla is fantastic.
And funny enough, I logged on today too, just to check a few things and refresh on a couple spots I wanted to. And apparently at some point my son had got on and he made a character and he named it. And this is the best name I've seen. It's just Fat Velma. I
That is so your son.
I just popped it up and I was like, wait, what is this? And I was like, who's Fat Velma? I'm like, why is this on my characters? But I was like, did you do this, man?
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
We were just playing The First Descendant yesterday and making fun of names. Like, wasn't one like Obese Will Smith? And I'm like, who makes that like their Steam name? But here, Toontown helps you out. They help you with these wacky names. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll come back and talk about graphics and gameplay. All right, Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about the graphic style of Toontown? Like, how would you describe the aesthetic? What kind of vibe are they going for with this one?
I would say the tunes look like tunes. Mm-hmm. It's cartoonish. It's definitely that there's not a lot of fine details in it. It's kind of set up where the pictures and the buildings and everything is kind of flat, if you will. There's not a lot of, like I said, detail to it, but it's definitely a very vibrant, bright atmosphere. You start out in kind of in a playground area, that bright green grass, big colorful buildings. So it's definitely got a kind of goofy, cartoonish look to it for sure. Like think kind of WoW, a little more rounded edges, but that colorful kind of pop to it.
What's goofy is, without knowing anything about this game, I posted just a screenshot of a character with no other context, and people knew the game right away.
Oh yeah.
It's highly recognizable.
Yeah.
And I think it works really well for the vibe that they're going for. It looks like an actual cartoon, and the game adds a lot of little flourishes that I love. Like, for example, when you first load the game, or if you do any kind of fast travel, you get like the old Looney Tunes. Yeah, you would have like the circles, and it was kind of like red and yellowish, and you had like a face in the middle of like Porky Pig or whatever. This gives you a screen like that with your own face, and it says like now starring, and it has your name and then like your location while the game loads. So everything really feeds into that cartoony type of feel, which I really appreciated. You know, the graphics weirdly have both aged poorly and actually quite well. I mean, for a 20-year-old game, if they went with a more realistic type graphic, it would look so horrible by today's standards. But because they chose a cartoony look, it's actually not aged as bad as you would think. Like you were saying, Ryan, a lot of the assets are very Polygon-esque. Like there's a lot of flat surfaces all over this game, and faces that are kind of just like triangles that come to a point and stuff like that. But I don't think it impedes on the game. I don't think there's any issue with graphics despite being so old.
No, yeah, I don't think so. I think it is what it's supposed to be. And I think it, like you said, I think it does hold up well. The one thing I was laughing at is, and I explained to you when we were playing together, is the doors. Like, you know how in modern games a lot of times you can tell this kind of this area I can go through, this door I can open, those ones probably not. They all look the same. Every door is just like a flat sheet, and then there's just like a door frame there, and then you just run up to it, and if it opens, it opens. You know, they all look exactly the same like that.
Yeah. And so this game plays in third-person perspective. You get to see your toon, which of course you get to design, and their clothing and everything else. And so as you run around the game of Toontown, Ryan, since you've put in the most time, like, what would you say you're doing in this game? What are you spending your time doing and accomplishing?
Well, think MMO, and that's what you're doing. You're killing those bunnies and those boars. But basically, so you kind of start off just like any other one. You kind of are dropped into this world, and you have to kind of get your initial training, figure out kind of the layout of the land, how to navigate, how to use what you have. And from there, you go on and after you finish your training, you start to kind of explore this world that's filled with all these other characters. You got kind of this semi-story with these cogs that have taken over these areas that you have to battle. Tons of mini games that you can use to earn these jelly beans that are like your currency throughout the game. So that's what you use to buy more gags, to you can get them from fishing and other stuff. You can buy clothes. So there's a lot of cool, standard currency stuff and yeah. So once you get through there, you battle the cogs, go through, try to conquer back kind of the land that they're trying to take over, and just fight off the evil suits.
Yeah. Just rinse and repeat, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So jelly beans as currency. I don't know that I've ever seen that in a game before. It is very funny.
Yeah.
You also have back in your house, which we'll talk maybe if we have time about like decorating your home later, but all of your excess jelly beans get put into this giant like
gumball
machine in your house, and you get to see them all, which is kind of fun. So let's talk about ways that you earn jelly beans, because if you want to do anything in this game, you have to have jelly beans available in order to buy the mats that you need. So Ryan, you mentioned fishing. That's where you get to do like fishing mini games. Then you get to go sell your fish. There are a whole bunch of mini games that you can play on the trolley, which is like the very first thing that I did. And that's where I spent my initial first hour. You can go complete quests. You can participate in parties that other people host. You can also go racing, so let's break a couple of these down, and let's start first with the trolley mini games. When you think back on those, Ryan, are there any mini games in particular that stand out, either good or bad?
Yes, I liked the memory game. They had a really cool one, which was kind of like the flip the cards memory game that had different kind of goofy stuff on it. It is a little bit difficult with two people because you can only flip one card at a time. So a couple times I got stuck on the trolley with another character, and we got in and I'm flipping the cards, and that's when I figured out you can only flip one at a time. And then the other person just standing there, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then they put in somehow, I'm not good at this game, or I don't know this game, or something like that. So then I'm stuck there for a minute and a half, not being able to do anything while they can't flip. But that was the only one that was kind of a bummer, but it was cool solo. But other than that, the Pac-Man one was really neat. You're stuck in kind of like a maze. A bunch of these cog enemies, which are like the Pac-Man ghosts, are kind of cruising around. What was neat though is some are a little slow, some are medium, and then there's usually one that's really fast. And if they bump into you, it just shoots you. You do a couple flips and then land down in a different area. And it could be an area you already cleared out. And then you got to run all the way back down and keep getting those little things. I had a really cool match in there. I posted it on our Discord, but I got bumped once or twice, and then I was able to literally, at the last second, get the last kind of little pod emblem thing to get a perfect score on it. But it was 100% 1-0 right as I got it, and it ended. But yeah, the mini games were cool. Think just like Mario Party or anything like that. Just kind of cool, fun little short games that you could play.
Are they competitive? Like, are you playing against other people, or is it always just kind of against like computer AI type stuff?
It's from what I played that I can remember. It's always just kind of most of it I did solo. It was rare that I was with anyone else, but yeah, it's just against the computer. There's another one where you dive down and you have to dodge these peanut butter and jellyfish, and get like a treasure chest at the bottom and swim back up and deliver it to the ship on top. So there's just a lot of games like that, and then based on how you do, you get a certain amount of jelly beans, and that's kind of how you can kind of quickly get some.
And it's low stakes. Like, you don't die. It's just a matter of how many jelly beans am I going to earn? Am I going to earn 0, or am I going to earn up to a certain amount? To also answer your question, Josh, even though it's not necessarily competitive, they do still show your score versus the other person. So like, for example, one is a slingshot minigame that plays exactly like Monkey Target in Super Monkey Ball. You press 2 buttons, it pulls your slingshot, and then when you stop, it shoots you out, and you try to land on a target and you get points. And at the end, everyone shoots at the same time, and then it shows your score and everyone else's. So when Ryan and I did some of those, there was definitely a little bit of, friendly trash talking back and forth. Yeah. Same with the treasure dive. I think there were 5 treasures down there. So we were like seeing who's going to get the third, because, it's not going to be an even number. I think almost all those mini games, for the most part, reminded me of something else. There's also a mini game that played an awful lot like Mario called Toon Escape. There's also the Jungle Vine game, which we were playing, with Ryan. But we died a lot. Well, not died, but you know what I mean. We fell into the pit a lot and had to restart because we were trying to like go as quick as we could.
Speed runs, yeah.
Yeah, without hitting the spiders, where you're just like swinging on vines, and it's mostly down to like timing. So yeah, there's a lot of these mini games that I would say are relatively fun. But at the same time, I will say that there's only so many. There's probably like 10 or so.
There's 15. I looked it up. To my
Okay,
knowledge,
15.
from what I read, there was 15.
I think this is the kind where the first 3 or 4 times you do them, you're having a really good time. But then once you start getting one for like, oh, I've already done this one like 8 times, that's when it starts to lose a little bit of the sheen. Or at least that's how I felt.
Yeah, no, I feel the same, especially if it's one that you're not a big fan of. And then it's totally random. So it's not like you can pick the game. So you hop on this little trolley and it takes you into a tunnel and then a game pops up. So if you get one that you're not a big fan of and then you get it like 2 matches later, it's kind of a bummer in that sense. But one thing within the games, those mini games on the trolley that I thought was really neat is after each match and you get your jelly beans, you can actually restock your inventory of your gags, which is cool because they have like an actual gag store where you can go and restock supplies. But in the mini game, after each one, you can just click what you want to do, spend those jelly beans, and then play some more so that you can restock your kind of little purse of jelly beans as well.
So do you get to pick the minigame that you play, or do you just say, I want to play a minigame and then it's randomized?
If you play solo, I think it's fully random.
Yeah.
But like there was one time when Ryan and I queued at the same time. So if you jump on the trolley, it has like a countdown where anyone else can jump on with you. And if that's the case, it does give you a little mini map and you're on the trolley and then you have a certain number of votes and you can see on the right hand of the screen what games you can play and you vote like, I want the train to go up or I want the train to go down. So there is a little bit of like choice there, but you're also betting against the other people. So there's a little bit of choice in that regard.
Yeah, I was trying to show you the Vine one, and then I'm like, vote down. And then you're like, and you voted
5
3
votes
up or whatever. And I was like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, just to mess with you. I got a bonus 10 jelly beans out of it. I had to do
that.
it. All right, so fishing. I am on record as saying I love any game with fishing. I love fishing mechanics in games. It's a little overstated for comedy on the pod, but I really do enjoy fishing games for the most part. I would not say Toontown Rewritten has a great system of fishing. Ryan, do you want to tell the people how this works?
Yeah, so basically you go out, they have these docks throughout. You kind of walk up to the dock. You have to have your jelly beans to fish. That's what you use as, quote unquote bait. And there's kind of shadows throughout the water that are somewhat stationary and then they tend to move. It's pretty straightforward and simple. You basically click the cast button, draw back, and there's an arrow that pops up, and you just directionally aim it towards there with how much power you want and try to land it on the dark spot. And if you do, then you really don't have to catch the fish. It just will pop up. You caught, this fish. And there was a big variety of the fish, which was neat because it was always kind of something different. There was like a Elvis starfish or something that when it came up, it was like, huh, yeah. With that's kind of like Johnny Bravo there. But it'd pop up and then go to your inventory. But other than that, that's pretty much all the, mechanics that there is with the fishing. So it was cool at first, but it definitely loses its luster pretty quick.
Yeah, it's even a little more simplistic than Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, you can see the shadows and you try to aim your rod beyond them and then, or like where they're going to head. And then you kind of like pull back the line a little, and then as the fish goes into it, then you grab it. This is just straight up aim for the spot and you get it.
Yeah, no reeling.
The twist is the funny names of the fish. So for example, peanut butter and jellyfish, you already mentioned in the treasure dive game, you can catch those here. You can also catch Siamese catfish or like Arabian seahorses. So there's always a little bit of a play on words with all this stuff. And of course, if you catch them all, you get like an achievement and some stuff like that. The fishing, I would say, is probably the worst fishing mechanic I've seen in a game. Have you seen anything worse, Ryan?
Well, we all know how bad the gameplay is on Red Dead 2, but I think
Red Dead has the best fishing of all time.
This just squeaks out. Yeah. I think I mean, I like fishing mechanics. I like fishing in real life too, but it's just wildly simplistic. There's not much to it. I mean, if they just had it to where you could reel in, that would have made a big difference. So you can catch the shadows across. But yeah, it's just so simple. There's not much to it.
This sounds terrible. Fishing in a video game is terrible in the first place.
Fishing's
it always
fun,
amazes me that Paul loves fishing. I get that it's relaxing. Like there is like something to be said for let me get away from like the grind of this game and just, do a little fishing mini game. But that's bad enough. But then when you have like bad fishing on top of that, like that's really bad, man.
Well, I think you have to remember they're aiming for like lowest common denominator. So you're gonna have like your 5-year-olds playing, and so they make it where anyone would be able to do it. It's very accessible for better or worse. I loved spending time in like World of Warcraft. I would fly around, hit my fishing nodes while having a TV show on my dual monitor, and I would just fish for hours, going and farming my mats for upcoming raids or stuff to sell. In this game, the fishing didn't quite do it for me, but I'm still glad that it's there. Like I enjoyed it for a couple minutes and just moved on and said, okay, that's not where I'm going to spend my time. I'd rather go play trolley games, or what I think is probably the best thing in this entire game, the racing. I'm not gonna say that the racing is like on par with modern racers, but it plays a lot like Mario Kart Lite. Mm-hmm. I think Josh would have enjoyed being in there racing with us. Ryan, we were getting, I mean, not you and I aren't super competitive people, but we were both trying to beat each other in these races. And there's a whole mode where you pick up items where you get to like drop bananas or throw pies at the other driver. There's arrows on the road that give you speed boosts and stuff like that. The racing I thought was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure. The racing in a game to me is fishing in a game to you. Like I loved Sparrow racing in Destiny. I love racing games, Gran Turismo, Forza, the old
Chocobo
school
racing.
Yeah, Need for Speed Underground 2 was one of my favorite racing games. So I love racing, especially in games that aren't just racing games. That was probably one of my favorite parts in it. I spent probably an hour and a half just solo racing, just trying to beat times. You don't get all the cool gags solo. At least I didn't when I was doing it. But when me and you got on, I was excited and it was fun. Yeah, like you said, we were throwing pies blue shells or green or red shells or whatever in Mario Kart, and then dropping the bananas and stuff. But yeah, the racing itself is pretty cool. It's not wildly hard. There's not a lot of mechanics to it. You just kind of go and drift around the corners, but it is pretty punishing if you hit those rails or end up in the dirt
for sure
on the edges. So you can get hung up pretty good. But other than that, yeah, the racing was pretty neat. I know, and I talked to a couple people that's not originally in there. They did that. They added that later on. So some people that I had spoke with about the game said that they had never raced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was live for 10 years with, rolling other stuff out. And Toontown Rewritten, I know that they've added some of their own flourishes as well. The racing I thought was fun. I think that's the most fun I had playing this game. Let's go ahead and just take our last break right now, and then we'll come back and talk about the actual turn-based combat. All right, so let's break down combat a little bit here. So when you first load in the game, you're kind of in this like town square area of Toontown. There's all these areas you can go. There's like the gag shop where you go buy your pies and stuff for the combat. There's other areas you can go to do various things, but you can leave the town square and kind of go out into, if you want to call it like the open world, I guess you could call it an open world game. So you go somewhere like Punchline Place, and you see houses and buildings. There's other people running around. You see stuff like Backstabber, Lawbot, Level 5, which is like one of the evil cogs running around. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit, like, what happens as you're running around the world and how do you engage in combat?
So this part was pretty neat. So in between, you have like your Toontown Central, and then there's other kind of towns, if you will, that you get to by going through these areas, the open world. Which also just kind of look like a roadway with a bunch of buildings throughout. And so as you're walking through there's these cogs that will come up and down on like a little propeller out of their head and just patrol the streets. And that's how you engage with them in battle, and that's how you kind of get your laugh meter filled up from experience points and whatnot. You run into them, and then it starts a battle, and anyone can join that battle as well as you're fighting. You just kind of run up into that kind of area, and it'll auto load. I loved
that.
Yeah, that part was really cool, especially if you see somebody that's, that guy looks like he's getting his butt kicked by this level 6 or level 8. Let me go help him out, and you hop in, and then you can join in right away. Or if you're getting your butt kicked and you're almost dead, somebody can hop in and help you, which was really cool. But yeah, as you're kind of going through that area, you can do these battles. But another really neat feature was these cogs are trying to take over. So there's these little shops in town areas along that walkway where they'll take over. It turns from this big, bright, beautiful, kind of colorful shop front to just plain gray, steel-looking, whatever Bloodsuckers law office building or whatever, whatever crazy suits name they have for them. It looks all crazy and menacing, and then you can go in and you can try to fight them to win that back. And me and you did that, which was a lot of fun. I was like, let's try to win this one back. And I was showing you that area, and we were able to go in, you fight a few different bosses, like kind of a few different levels. And then once you beat that final boss, it all changes back to what it was before. And then your character's picture is actually hung up in the little kind of front lobby area, which was really neat. So the combat, and I think we mentioned too, it's turn-based, so you can kind of throw your different gags, you take turns, and there is dodging, so you can miss a couple times with certain attacks, especially if they're higher level. But yeah, the whole system and the way they have it set up, it's classic MMO, kind of turn-based type stuff like that.
Yeah. And you don't have like classes, so you don't have like the holy trinity of a tank, a healer, and DPS.
Correct, yeah.
But everyone can do damage, and you do unlock heals, and there are times that stuff's needed.
Oh, yeah.
We were running around with other people, Ryan, and there were times that, I was the lowest level, and I would kind of get smashed anytime the cog would hit me, but then, like, you guys were there to help heal and bring me back up. I also cannot think of a turn-based combat game where like other people can join mid-combat. Like I thought that was kind of neat. Like in World of Warcraft way back in the day, it was like there was always a battle of who was going to tag the monster first, and then it would belong to that party. And that was kind of like to avoid the ninja looting, because you did have times where anyone could access that loot. So everyone kind of has like their own system of that. In this game, everything is individual, but you can join other people, which I thought was very neat. So even if someone else is toward the end of that battle, they can still jump in and fight. And even with me playing in my very first session, my very first time engaging in combat, 2 other people jumped in with me, and we were all noobs just chucking the same pies and squirting water at the cogs. But I like that it encourages that kind of community and play together, which you don't often see in MMOs. You might see like those world events where anyone can jump in and fight stuff, but on the individual mob level, I love that they encourage that kind of teamwork.
Yeah, no, even as I always do, or the way of things, I explored way further than I should have at one point, and I was at some high level areas that I should not have been there. And I walk up and I'm like, oh no, this is not good. This guy is doing a lot of damage. I attacked him and I only did like 3 damage in the very beginning.
You should not be here, mortal. Your blood is forfeit. Your flesh is mine.
And some other character walks up and helps me out and does 109 damage on their first attack. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. And then they ended up helping me out a couple more while I was trying to make my way out of there. I'm like, I got to get out of this zone big time.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the progression loop, because in some ways I like this a lot in theory, although I do have some issues with the execution. Basically, the gags, which are your quote weapons, in order to upgrade to the next set, you have to use that gag. And there are different gags that have different stats. So for example, the ones that do more damage tend to have lower accuracy. So if you try doing that, you're more likely to miss. And I love the idea of, if you want to upgrade throwing pies, you have to use the pies. And then pretty soon you're throwing birthday cakes and, things of that nature. The problem though is part of it is just due to the age. A lot of people have said that their biggest issue with Toontown is that it kind of feels like a grind fest, because the game did cost $10 a month to play. So they had to kind of elongate gameplay. And I think a lot of that was by having so many tiers of gags that you just had to play dozens and dozens and dozens of hours in order to get there. Meanwhile, you just have stronger cogs further away that you can go fight. So I was kind of curious, Ryan, did you agree with the people who say it kind of devolves into a grind fest, or is that maybe too harsh?
Shoot, it's more grinding than the 90s X Games. It's definitely, you can tell it's an early MMO. Like that's just what they were. That's how the games were developed and made and designed. We've said it with WoW. I'm sure it was the same with EverQuest. You just have to do it. Like originally you start out with your pies, and to upgrade that, I think it's 50. Throw 50 pies, or do 50 squirts with your squirt flower thing. So
what do you? I'm a little confused though. What do you get out of that? Do you get you get cherry pie now? Do you get like a double decker pie? Like, does your pie actually change?
Yes,
or it does. Okay, at least there's something like visual there.
Yeah. So there's kind of think like a big I don't know, maybe like a chessboard. And you have different categories, and then you start out with just your regular pie, and then you get the blueberry pie, and the blueberry pie does 6 damage instead of 3. So kind of you unlock them based on how many times you throw them. So as you progress, it's more and more, like Paul was saying. So the first one, you got to throw 50 of that one. That's a lot of cogs to fight, especially when if you're doing if you got 2 or 3 characters with you fighting, you're only maybe throwing one attack, and then so that's a lot you have to go through to grind. So you definitely can feel the bones of an early 2000s MMO.
Yeah, instead of like finding new weapons or having a loot system like that, instead it's use these and it's going to get stronger over time because you unlock the next tier. And I don't know how many different gags there are, but there's like a good 10 different categories. So in the beginning, you only have those 2. You don't have any ability to heal or anything like that. But as you play more and more, you unlock those other ones. And then that kind of like opens up your gameplay where you have more that you can do as far as like AoE damage and heals and things like that.
Yeah, it was actually funny because I did a lot of actually reading for this because I wanted to do my due diligence and make sure I was kind of knowledgeable on this game. And it was funny, I was reading stuff talking about how they had to make changes because the sound tier, I believe, was just meta. And if you weren't running sound, like they were like giving you the boot back in the day, apparently. Wow. And I thought that was hilarious because even back then on a game like this, there was still like meta builds,
classic MMO thinking,
min-maxing.
It was. I was reading it. It was cracking me up.
Oh man! Oh, you have the blueberry pie equipped. Kick this guy out of the raid.
Give him the boot. You stink.
You stink. Oh my goodness, that is crazy. Yeah, it did seem. I did not play as much as you, Ryan, but I could see some of that Grindfest DNA already just in what I had experienced.
One thing too. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were going to move on.
I was going to say, at the same time, if you were a parent and just like wanted your kid to have something they can do and keep them busy over the summer, I can kind of see where that's like not necessarily the worst thing. I mean, I put limits with my kids on screen time, but for a lot of parents out there, I bet they didn't mind that. Just pay $10 a month, and now your kid can play pretty much as long as they want anytime.
Heck yeah, Billy. You throw those little blueberry pies. I know I talked to my brother and I asked him just a few questions to just kind of let me know what he loved about the game, what drew him to it and stuff. And he mentioned that just grinding out, he wanted that birthday cake. And like, when you're a little kid, you don't have things to do and places to be. So you're like, oh, heck yeah, I'm just going to run around and beat up these cogs and I'm going to try to get that, birthday cake. But one thing I thought was really funny to kind of break up some of the Grindfest was the things the cogs would say. Their little one-liners that they would put with their attacks. So as they're attacking you, they'd make some sort of crazy statement and do some graphical effect. Like one would be a finger wag, and then they like shake their finger at you, and then it would kind of do like raise at you, or let's talk the bottom line and freeze assets, just all kind of suits business talk. And then my favorite was tee off, and then the guy pulled out a golf club and a golf ball and actually hit it at you, which I thought was pretty good. But yeah, the little sayings they would do would crack me up a little bit just to kind of break up that, like I said, that grind fest.
And we agree that this is extraordinarily ironic that Disney created this, right? That
That
you're
was-
fighting against the suits that are squeezing out all the money of Toontown
Yeah.
and literally charging people for a Grindfest MMO. It's so ironic, but it's very funny.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Yeah, that part was very. Everybody I talked to, I said, "Man, it's just funny that this is a Disney game and this is what they made," and especially in 2024 with everything going on with Star Wars and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's wild. So, Ryan, I kind of forget how the quest system works, to be honest. I didn't really work on quests the last several days. How does that work with like the Toon tasks or whatever they call?
So it's kind of like any other MMO like that. You go to this shopkeeper or this person. In the beginning, you get started with like the Toontown headquarters, and then you go to the library, and you just go kill 3 of this type of cog, and then 5 of this type of cog. Go get me 4 gears, and then it's like go talk to this shop owner, and you talk to them, and they're like, we lost our shipment of tires. They fell in the lake. You got to go fish out the tires from the lake. So just kind of real simple and basic missions like that to do the quest. The cool thing is when you turn them in, you get what's I forget what it's called, but it's basically your laugh meter, and that's your health. So as you go up, you get a bigger laugh meter, and it expands your health bar, if you will, from 10 to 12, and then from 18 to 19, and that's how you can kind of progress with that through those quests. And then other ones you'll unlock training videos or different things like that, but the quests are all pretty basic, standard, go do this or go get this, stuff like that.
Fetch quests.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The one thing, unless I was totally doing it wrong, that was obnoxious for me, was you couldn't do more than one at a time. So
just one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I have to kill these cogs and kill these types of cogs, but I can't do them at the same time, so I have to pick one, then run out there, and of course, naturally, I'd see all the other ones for the other quest when I'm out there waiting to find the ones that I needed, and then go back, turn it in, and then run the next one. So, yeah, it was definitely a lot of fetch quests, or go here, go there, talk to this person, things like that.
So, Josh, I know you might have been bored a little bit, but you can perk up, because this is now...
Ooh, okay.
I know what you're going to care about the most. You can decorate your own house in Toontown.
What?
So Josh, I don't know if that changes things. Maybe you're willing to hop in now. Ryan, I don't know how much you messed around with this. I did not mess with it at all. My house looked like a very young bachelor. It had basic furniture and a giant gumball machine filled with my jelly beans. I didn't do anything else. Did you mess around at all with house decorating? I don't even know.
What more do you need than a bed and I always love those pictures. Like, how can guys live like this? With a chair and a TV,
mini fridge and a mattress on the floor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's paradise, baby. No, I didn't really. I was, believe it or not, I was like, I don't really care about. It's obviously not going to be a game that I'm going to play long term. So I wasn't that invested on how is my house going to look. I was more focused on, honestly, playing the games and racing. So I didn't really mess around with it too much. I just know that you're able to go in there, alter things throughout the home and mess with stuff kind of like Animal Crossing and things like that. But no, I didn't mess with it too much.
Yeah. Well, to close out the show, just 2 last things here. And one of them's going to be where you're going to put this on your leaderboard, Ryan, what kind of rating you're going to give it. But before we do that, who would you say this game is best suited for playing right now in 2024? Who is this designed for?
So I think that this is 100% nostalgia game for a vast majority of the audience. And then who it's not nostalgic for, it's for their kids. The people who had played it.
Agree.
Yeah. So if you play this as a kid, you're going to love it. It means a lot to you. It doesn't feel boring. It doesn't feel kind of like this is a kid's game. It just takes you back to having that carefree life of just playing video games. So I totally get that. I understand that those people 100% are going to play, and then they're going to get their kids in it. I think for new players, 7 or 8 to probably maybe 12, 13 is probably that kind of range that they would enjoy it, and it would kind of sit well with them with the way the graphics are and the type of the gameplay. But yeah, those are kind of the two categories that I think.
I could totally see playing this with your kids where you're within distance where you can talk to each other. Maybe if you have like a couple laptops in the kitchen or, maybe like two computers that are next to each other. And I think this would be a great introduction to online gaming. And that's exactly what this game was supposed to be. An introduction to play online with other people, engaged in turn-based combat, play these little mini games that are easy to learn and quick to pick up, and you just play it until it's no longer fun. If the game starts to feel like a grind fest, you don't have to play it anymore. But if this game is super nostalgic, you may not mind that grind. There's something to be said for something that's like comfortable and familiar, and you can just grind out an 8-hour session, and maybe you don't mind doing that. I mean, am I going to play this game by myself in 2024 as a 40-plus-year-old gamer? No. I mean, but I'm not saying that it's a bad game. I'm just saying it's just not for me. And I think you probably more or less fell in that same category, Ryan, where when you and I jumped in and played together, we had some fun. I don't think it has a lot of legs for us. And I kind of hate to say that knowing how much a lot of our listeners love it. But if it's got that nostalgia kick, then I totally understand that.
Yeah, I think they'll understand that. I think they know when they started playing it and who it was for, and that's why they love it, because they played it. I mean, I know even when the classic or vanilla or whatever came out, and it was back to that old school grind, and I remember just going hitting up Scarlet Monastery and all these old, and I was playing it and it brought me back. But even that, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of sick of this grind, and there's a reason that they progressed to different kind of game mechanics and how they did it. So yeah, I definitely I could see all those kind of things the way it's all set up.
So Josh, do you feel like you missed out? Do you feel like you should have played this with us, or do you feel like you dodged a bullet? Or
no,
a pie.
Yeah, I dodged a pie on this one. I mean, it's funny because like we just started playing First Descendant, right? Like just came out a couple days ago. We're in it. I'm enjoying it, but it's like there's this part of my brain that already knows that there's going to be like a grind involved. You know, it was that way with Lost Ark, which was another MMO that we covered on the show, where you can have fun with it until the news starts to wear off, and then it just becomes how are they keeping me busy? Like how are they keeping me coming back to their game? And I don't know if it's just because I'm older or because we've seen this, 24 times now. So it's like we're a little bit more like used to it or aware of it or something like that. But I have a hard time justifying why am I going to sink 20 hours into grinding out something so that I can hit a bigger number when I shoot something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm the king of progression, right? I love progressing in video games, but at some point I have to just go like, why? Like, why am I spending this time to try to hit that like 1 million damage shot versus the 750,000 damage shot when I could just be experiencing something else and something new, But I still remember the date, dude. The amount of grinding I did in EverQuest is legendary, man. Yeah. I ground a key to Vexthal for a month straight, dude. Like 6 hours a day of farming trash mobs, waiting for a like 2% chance of a drop. You know what I mean? So that I could get a key to go to this new zone that had just been released. And it's like, I think back, but at the time I loved it because when I finally got that key, I was just like, yes,
finally
I did it. Yeah, but now like that thought is just like terrible to me at the same time. So I guess it depends on the game. Maybe it depends on what you got going on in life where it's like, I don't mind grinding this. I don't know, but like the grind, I think I'm past the grind stage at this point. Like maybe it's just that my time in life is shorter now. So it's like, I don't want to spend 30 hours grinding this,
Yeah, 30 hours closer to death.
Yeah.
It hasn't even been that long when I didn't mind the grind. Even in WoW, I would go back and grind the old raids to get the mounts that I wanted. So I'd keep doing the Firelands every week when it would reset, go kill those certain bosses and hope for my, mounts. This, it definitely is pretty grindy. If you didn't play it, I don't know that it's going to attract a lot of new gamers. I think most people who are playing it now are people who have been playing it for a long time. I think that's probably safe to say. All right, well, let's go to our leaderboard. So for listeners who may not know, we actually revamped our leaderboard not long ago. Instead of just ranking the game against everything else, we are actually now assigning scores. So from 0.0 to a 9.8 for Ryan, since Ryan doesn't believe in the 10.0 score. I'm very curious to hear where you are going to rate this, Ryan.
Well, this one's a hard one for me because I understand the nostalgia factor we've talked about. I understand that it's old kind of mechanics and the old way of an MMO with that kind of grindy nature to it. So I'm trying to take that into account with the rating of playing it today, having not played it before. So I'm kind of all over the board on where I want to put it because I don't want to break people's hearts, but I also want to be...
It's subjective. You got to be honest. Like, where are you going to put it? Like, is it better than Pacific Drive?
Ryan, what? I can see the struggle on Ryan's face.
Ryan's nice. He's a nice guy.
Ryan is way too nice for his own good. Like, I can tell that he doesn't want to rate this real high, but at the same time, he's like, dude, this was people's childhood, and I don't want to go pooping on this game. Yeah, you got to be honest, Ryan. That's the main thing, man.
Yeah, I know. And so am I rating this on just a fresh playthrough with not considering anything?
Yeah, this was chosen for you in 2024 to play this game that was 20 years old to get your opinion on it.
Gosh, that changes things a little bit.
And it's free. That does come into play. So you're not paying $60 for this. You don't have to pay monthly. The guy who made this, you can play for free. So that comes into it as well.
Yeah, I think with all those factors, the fact that you can play it for free, the mechanics are there from all the old school, games that we loved growing up. It's just a different one of those. So with the way the mini games were, some of the issues with kind of the lack of complexity and the fishing and other stuff, I get why, but I mean, I'm playing it now. I'm gonna just kind of give it a middle of the pack 5.
Okay.
Just kind of, it's a fair game. I understand what it was made for. It's not for me. So actually 5.1. Sorry, not 5. Can't give those
5.1. Okay.
Yeah, 5.1. No even numbers.
Very important.
So gotta have the decimal. But yeah, I'd say 5. It's like I said, it's a fair game. I understand why people would love it, and I understand why people would dislike it. I am by no means gonna play it probably ever again. But it was cool to check out, and it was really cool to see how many people reached out to me talking about their love for the game and what it meant to them. So it was cool to see that factor in it as well.
They offered you their login info if you wanted to go fight bigger stuff. That's how excited people were to hear us talk about it.
Yep.
I'm kind of right with you, Ryan. I'm not going to give it an official rating because I don't think I played it long enough to do that. I feel like I played it just long enough that I could make an outline without your help is kind of what my goal was. My impression is it would be pretty close to a 5 as well. Now, that's very subjective. That is you and I saying 5 out of 10 for us, our enjoyment level. If I was an actual critic, I feel like this would be like a 7.5 or an 8.0, and I would just say, hey, if you're the target audience, this game does exactly what you would want. I did have some technical issues. I got stuck under the ground a couple times where all I could see was gray sky, and I had to reboot and some stuff like that. But by and large, it's a 20-year-old game. Reviewing any 20-year-old game now would be shocking if it's anything above a 6.5. Yeah, that's kind of sky's the limit.
Go play 007 or Ocarina of Time or something.
GoldenEye was the game that came to mind for me where we rave about that game. Oh my goodness, my memories of that with my buddies are second to none. But nowadays, people would be like, "You guys had to play this?" You know, and we'd be like, "What are you talking about? This is gold, man!" And they'd be like, "This game sucks."
Absolutely, yeah. I was thinking the same thing. Ocarina of Time is so hard to play when you're used to modern day camera movement and everything. It's pretty rough. So yeah, I don't think that's so much indicative of the game as much as just time passing. All right. Well, I think that wraps everything up here. We want to say thank you so much once again to the man of the hour, Alex, for going legendary. If you don't already support the show, please swing over to multiplayersquad.com. You can sign up to help support what we do, keep our show running, get some great perks along the way. We're also on socials everywhere at Video Gamers Pod, and we would love if you'd rate us 5 stars and join the free Discord. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, happy gaming.
See ya.
All right. See you, everybody.